Hi, Carl here for ProAV TV. I'm at IBC 2017 at the Sony stand talking to Tom about the brand new Sony Venice. Okay, so Tom, Venice.
Yeah, Venice.
Tell me about it.
It's a lovely city in Italy on the northern coast. It's also the name of the new camera that we've launched for high-end cinema production. It's a thoroughbred cinema camera.
What's going on? You didn't call it the F100 or F150? Or...
Cinema market's a creative place with creative people, and we've really had to sort of get on board with those kinds of ideas. And
I like the name Venice.
I like the name Venice. It's great. By all means, we've got a product code for it. We've got one. We're just not using it for the marketing now. It's a real sort of flagship camera, and it needed a name, and we gave it one. And Venice has a lot of connections with film festival and cities and wonderful stuff and art and history, and it seemed like a really great name for a really great product.
So it's called Venice. What's new about it?
Well, of course, the big headline feature is it's a full-frame sensor, and we've had people asking us for full-frame sensors for a long time. There is uses in anamorphic. People have got a lot of old lenses. There's so much flexibility in terms of lens selection when you're working with a full-frame camera, so people are very excited to hear that. We've also developed the way the sensor works. We've done a lot of work around our color science. We've done a lot of work around the dynamic range, so we're talking about this as a 15-stop camera. So in terms of really capturing light and dark and working in a cinematic film-like way.
Your F55, how many stops do you rate that?
That's 14. So 15 is a big jump, of course, it's logarithmic, so every step's bigger than the last. It's a big leap. And when we're starting to talk about things like HDR production really becoming much more mainstream, all of that extra dynamic range becomes really useful and really valuable. And one thing we've continued with from the 5 and 55 is we're recording using the XSR7 and we're recording XOCN or RAW, but both of those are 16-bit linear. And that's the sort of bit depth you want to be able to get all the value out of those deep tonal ranges and those very high tonal ranges for your final production.
Do you know what sort of data rate those are off the top of your head?
That's published, so that's not too tricky and that won't have changed. I can't off the top of my head. It works out at about a third of RAW.
Yeah, there's a significant saving to using XOCN, but not much quality loss from what I understand it.
It's visually identical until you get to about 10 times zoom, and then you've got to have the right type of edge to be able to even detect something. So
worth using.
Absolutely worth using. And I mean, we're still talking about a world that is so far ahead of what you can do in basically anything else. In absolutely anything else, that really it's a hair's difference a mile away.
So that's the RAW with the R7 recorder. What if you
right.
don't have the R7 recorder and you've got card slots internally?
Yep, absolutely. We've got two S/S card slots internally, and those will go. There's a range of ProRes codecs built into it as well, so you can do that if you want to.
So the ProRes is internally in the camera, not on the
internally in the camera. You've also got XAVC in a range of flavors, including the newer implementation of the highest end, which is XAVC Class 480.
Nice.
So that's a 480 megabit, 422 10-bit codec, which then looks really, really nice. We've had the Class 300 in a lot of the products so far. We introduced the 480 into a server, which we use for live production. This is the first product that records directly into it in a camcorder.
So let's talk about the design a little bit, because the F55, I know you had the F65 above it, which this sort of sits in between, I guess, does it in the lineup?
They're different tools for different things, I'd say. Yeah.
I mean, the F55 was very much designed from a one owner-operator standpoint.
Absolutely.
Quick release, quick access.
Yeah, exactly.
This is slightly different.
This is a cinema camera. And when we were developing this, we got so much feedback from cinematographers, from cameramen, from first ACs, from focus pullers. Where would you, putting a piece of paper in front of them with a rough outline of a camera and going, if you want this function, where would you press? How would you expect to get to that? And the whole camera has been built around those principles that we got from that feedback, which has been very well received, of course. So you've got things like a screen on both sides. So you've got an assistant cameraman who has access to more information than the main cameraman does. But
it's not just a screen on both sides. The assistant side is significantly better.
It is, but it's not the operator's job is to keep things in focus, focus puller's job, but his job is to frame. and make sure he's getting everything exactly as he should. So you don't want him to also be in charge of all this other stuff, and you don't want him to have to move to be able to change those things. So he's got access to the important stuff. Everything else is out there on the other side.
I think that's really smart. I think that's really good. Viewfinders and all that sort of stuff?
Yep, so the viewfinder that we've got mounted on this one, and indeed all of them, all of the accessories that you had on the F5 and 55 will still work on this. All of anything you've got from any third party will work on this as well. The viewfinder that we're using here is the EL200, which is the full HD OLED, also substantially brighter than the EL100 that we launched back in 2012 with the F5 and 55. It's a beautiful viewfinder.
So this is 6K.
Yeah.
Now, it's also full frame. Is it only 6K when you're using the full frame? And can it only do 6K in the full frame? Do you know what I mean? Can you do 4K full frame?
On this version, almost certainly not. We, of course, haven't released it yet.
Sure.
I don't believe so. I think it's 6K all the time. You can certainly record it as 4K and oversample. That's absolutely fine. But that's a codec choice. We try not to crop the sensor unless there's an optical reason to do so. So certainly it's a full frame sensor, 6K across. If you're using a Super 35 cutout, that's going to come out at 4K.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem at all.